to Mechanical Turk by Amazon, which is a great human-born data collection tool, a crowdsourcing technique. So the reason why I'm presenting this today is because this is not only useful for HCI researchers, but it is also useful for anyone who would wish to build their own machine learning or deep learning tools or deep learning models. Now, before I give a brief introduction, let me talk about what we are going to discuss for today. So we're going to talk about what and why mTurk, how we can use mTurk, and off-the-record tips and know-hows on using the mTurk. Right. So what is an mTurk? So mTurk is a crowdsourcing internet market that utilizes human intelligence to perform tasks that computers are unable to do. So basically, mTurk is just outsourcing your um, tasks to everyone else in the world. So this does not only include like a computer science related works, but you can also outsource any works that you would like to do, such as surveys, um, getting on opinions, and etc. etc. But the reason why mTurk is so widely known and is so famous is because it is widely used to collect data for machine learning and deep learning model. So um, as many of you might know, a deep learning and machine learning models first need to be trained with the real human-born data, such as the class annotation, segmentation, um, emotion detection, etc. So the larger the data, the better the performance you get, right? So if you train your model with the larger data, the better the performance you will get in the end. But um, if you can't secure a lot of data, then inevitably your model is very unlikely to have a great performance as compared to other off-the-shelf models. So a lot of techniques have been used to avoid this, such as zero or few-shot learnings, but still, um, uh, the common opinion is that you would still need a big data to train to achieve a good performing model. So mTurk, as I mentioned before, mTurk is very useful for data labeling and collection, including annotating objects, such as or labeling emotion to voice recordings, making a bounding box, data collection, and etc. I've asked one of our PhD students in our lab, how many data do you need to train your network? And the PhD student said she needs about uh, 10 or 100,000 um, audio files to properly train the model. So as you can see, it really needs a lot of data to be labeled and to train a good network, but you can't do it on your own, or um, you can't really do it in the um, lab sized human labor. So this is where the mTurk comes in. You outsource your work to everyone else, to millions and billions of people in the world. So mTurk is comprised of three components. So first is the worker. So workers are the humans who actually does the job. Yeah, the human who actually does the job. The person who actually labels or makes a bounding box and whatever. Second one is task. Task means a job to be done, like labeling products and etc. Third is a requester. So you are very likely to be um, you are very likely to log into mTurk as a requester. So today's tutorial will mainly talk with in requester's perspective. So requester is a person who requests and tasks. And last but not least is hit. So hit is just a credit that the requester gives to the worker. So it's, although the name is hit, you can just consider it as money, dollar, and whatever currency you can think of. And so if you see the diagram right here, the requester registers a task to the mTurk, and workers who are registered at mTurk sees the task and does the job if the worker is willing to do so. After the worker is done, the result is seen to the requester, and the requester can either accept or deny the works done by the worker according to the result quality. So the reason why we use a lot of MLDL researchers use mTurk is that the model's performance is highly dependent on number of sizes, number of training data, and the size of training data. So many of you may know this this diagram on their first, as you may have seen on deep learning classes. But the larger the neural network sizes, larger the neural network sizes, the more the data you need to make it perform better, right? But if you don't train them enough with data, it may overfit or underfit and may not result to good quality. So you need, in the end, you would still need a lot of data to train on. And mTurk can offer a very cheap and yet large and quality data for your neural network training model. So let me show you how to use this mTurk. So as for today's tutorial, I'll show you how to, I'll give you a very brief introduction on how to use it as a requester, and show you how to create a new project, and how to select customizable template and start a new project. Do note that contents are only editable as HTML and CSS form, but it is not precisely in the HTML. But do not worry, all of the contents and the templates are pre-given by the Amazon. Couple of notes though. So if you log into requester, here are all the templates that you can use as a requester. So you can pretty much find all, if not all, but most types of, I guess, types of training data you need for your neural model, such as the key points, video classification, segmentation, let's just say. Or you can actually even make emotion detection task. So for instance, if you upload your, you can upload your audio file and ask the participant, oh, is this, do you think this voice sounds angry, happy, or neutral, or etc. You can also use it for data collection or website collection. Like you can actually ask any person to ask the workers to collect, for instance, collect, I guess, a Rolex watch image, for instance, or collect me a bunch of Donald Trump images, or whatever. So and on the right side, you can see some of the no, on the right side, you can see the preview of your project before you publish it to the workers. So yeah, let's start with quick mTurk tutorial. So let's just quickly log on to, not log on to, but access the URL requester.mturk.com. Let me just sign out real quick to show you the full process. So on the right side, you can see a requester button, and let's log in. Oh, sorry. Yeah, there you go. And click on to new project. And as I have shown you before, there are a bunch of example templates that you can use right off the hook. So let's choose, let's see, let's do a bounding box, for example. So this is the preview of your project. So this is what the workers will see on the moment they log on to, at the moment they click your project. So they will see this picture and they have the labels to make a bounding box for. So I can click on bird, bounding box here and bounding box there, and you can submit it right here. So how do you make them? So let's click on to create project with a bounding box clicked. You can select several properties, titles, description, and keywords, and you can make a reward for each assignment. And how much you would pay for the workers is totally up to you. But usually, they give about but usually the cost is about half of U.S. federal minimum wage. So say that the minimum federal wage is about $14, and you think that your work would take about 1 hour, then it is quite reasonable to set your work to be $7 reward per assignment. Yeah, and you can also set the estimated time of assignment and the total time you would like to publish your work to all the workers in the mTurk. And last but not least, you can also set workers requirements. You can set workers, master workers. So master workers are those who are reported as doing quality work. So those who got a really good marks from previous requester that, oh, they have done really good job on doing the tasks. So as you can see, the description here identifies high-performing workers and monitors their performance over time. So a lot of people do click yes to this one, but it would also take a lot of time because there aren't many masters workers out there in the mTurk. But if you do click yes, then you are very likely to get a more quality label data. And you can add another criterion to these. So there are a bunch of other criterions. Hit approval rates. So it means that the workers who got high percentage of hit approval, like you can set it as like, oh, I only want to request workers who only got above 90% approval rate. You can also set like an age or specific category of workers like car owners and such, or an age group. Or you can also select people by region. So is one of, it's not one of these countries. So popular choices do include like United States, United Kingdom, or other English-speaking countries. There are right, or South Africa, Republic, and etc. But do note that if you don't select this, your work will be distributed to all people all around the world, and yeah. And then let's go out to design layout. So do remember that as for the image bounding box example, we had these components: the labels, the image to be labeled of, and the other workers properties. These properties are pre-given, and you don't really have to have like to consider manipulating them too much. But the things you should consider are these: the image and the labels. So just disregard everything else, but close pay attention to the src, the image URL, and the labels. So as for each images, all you gotta do is select an image URL and the labels. So if you want to make two image bounding box tasks, then you can just copy and paste the example and set the image URL, and you're actually good to go. So if you click preview, you can preview what you have selected, what you have made previously. So note that we didn't insert image at the first, so nothing pops up. But notice the labels, like we have the labels that we have made, we have just made. So after you have finished with making them, let me just click finish. So it is not published just yet. So this is the project that we have just made, and you can have and there are several options. If you want to start labeling right now, you can just click publish batch, and as soon as you click that button, your project will be online to millions of workers on mTurk. So since we don't want that to happen right now, let me just show you how I used it for my research. So yeah. If you click publish the batch, it'll get moved to the manage folder. So in here, you can see the percentage, the completion percentage, and the time elapsed, etc., etc. And then let's go over to review results. Oh. So these are the works that has been done by the workers. There's a hit ID, the task ID, so to say, and the worker's ID. And if you click on the worker, then you can actually see some of the qualities. If you the properties of these workers, if you ask them, and then you can see the results given from these workers in a column row form. Yep. So that wasn't really hard at all, right? So there are some very quick tutorials on how to use an mTurk. So anyone who is interested in using an mTurk and would like to ask some questions, I'm more than happy to help you out. And these are some of the off-the-record tips and know-hows. As I mentioned before, you can customize the worker pools by region, age, and etc. Several, I do hesitate to mention this in the seminar, but several researchers did mention that they have trust issue regarding certain age groups or the region groups. But to avoid that, you can actually add some cross-check questions to validate your task results. So do remember that you can approve or decline the works done by workers at any time. Workers. So here are some of the tips on sorting out the liars from the task. So you can make a ground truth questions like so in other words, test one and trust the rest. So make a ground truth questions in the middle. So for instance, let's say it's a bounding box making question, and in the middle of the question, you make like a very obvious question, like make a bounding box for a bird, or bounding box for a car in the middle. If those ground truth questions are deemed to be true, then you can um, um, you are safe to um, trust the rest of the results from the workers. Also, you can add same questions in the middle. Like if you ask a bounding box for picture A, um, make a very make exactly the same question in the middle of the question, in the middle of your test data set, and see if those results matches. And with those cross-check questions, you can actually approve or decline the works done by the workers. And also note the average work time. Um, after some amount of time, the mTurk tells you how much average time the workers um, required. Say like 30 minutes. But if you see like a one guy um, finish task within like 5 or 8 minutes, then you can get suspicious. Like, oh, this guy um, did did not really pay the attention to my work. Yeah, and you can always do remember that you can always reject the works done by these workers. Yep, as I showed you before, I there was no approve or reject button on the tutorial that I showed you because all were approved and were overdue. But while you were running the batches, you will see the approve and reject buttons, and you can click some of the you can click which one to approve for and which one to reject according to the results. Yeah, and as I showed you before, you can set some of the worker requirements by age group or by location or etc. or certain groups of workers. And also there's an IRB issue, right? So IRB stands for Institutional Review Board, which is needed when you are experimenting on human subject. The very obvious example would be testing, well, not human subject, like a testing exoskeleton robot to human. That would definitely need an IRB, right? But you don't really need IRB when the subject does not need it to be specified. So on the left side is an example of experiment that you need IRB. So if I'm testing my AR system to the wheelchair user, that would definitely need IRB because that my system can affect the subject and the subject needs to be specified. Or if you're doing a survey on the mTurk, like I would like to get your opinions on offline shopping, or I would like to get your opinions on um, like a VR experiments. That would definitely need an IRB. But as for the task that does not need a subject to be specified, such as segmenting problem, annotating problems, labeling problems, and etc., those would not need an IRB. So before you run an mTurk, please note if you need an IRB or not. If you're not sure, you can always call an IRB office and ask if you need them or not. So IRB is open for 6 times a year. So this is the email that I got last year from IRB. So as for last year, they had it for January. I guess this is probably March, July, August, and October through November. So IRB takes about a month or 2 to 3 weeks minimum if it is considered for oh, this does not seem to affect subject a lot, then it goes over to quick review and you will get results within like 2 to 3 weeks. But if your work is considered to affect human subjects, for instance, AR system for the wheelchair user, then it goes to regular review, and it will take about a month or a month and a half to review and get approval. So you do need an IRB before you start your mTurk subject if your task is subjected to IRB review. Right, so there was a quick review on how to use mTurk, why, what is mTurk, and some of the quick notes and IRB issue regarding the mTurk. So should you have any questions, I am very happy to answer those questions. Thank you very much.
Is there a chance that you want your work to be done by 100 people, but at the same time, 1,000 people are working on it? So like
Yes.
900 people's effort will be wasted?
Yes, there's a possibility, and you will not get any demerits for rejecting all of those. So mTurk totally trusts um, um, your decision on approving or rejecting the works done by the workers.
Well, in this case, wouldn't there be like a complaints from the workers' side? Because there should be some motivation for them to work on these projects, but then if their work is being ended up wasted, they would be happy, right?
Yes. Yeah. So I think that's a really good question, but um there is no like standard regulations on approve reject um um ratio, but yes, and then there could be complaints, and yes, and you can um actually communicate with those workers and justify why you rejected those works done. And yeah, and I did actually get some emails from the workers that, oh, I'm in this condition, am I eligible for this study? Or I did this work, why am I not approved? And such and such.
And I'm also wondering if they make the workers enough amount of money by doing this. Otherwise, I mean, eventually in the long run, I mean, not going to be any workers if their compensation is not good enough, right?
Yeah.
So do you have any like a guess or idea that how much the people who are working as a worker like make?
Um, I know several people who do earn their living with the only with the mTurk work. So for people who can't really who have difficulty getting outside, um, getting outdoors, they do a lot of mTurk job like labeling stuffs. Or since this um, um, the the payment rate is pretty much set as U.S. minimum wage, it is quite lucrative job for people living in developing countries. Um, so in those regions, a lot of people do use do work as a workers as a primary um, earning source.
Well, in this case, like a demographic will be a little bit distorted, right?
Indeed,
Sometimes, I mean, these things should be done by some like high-paying job people, like high professional people, or people who live in the city or like a developed country and so on. But then, if the workers are staying tends toward these like developing countries, then yeah, the data might not be enough, right?
indeed. So that's why you can actually set the worker requirements. So a lot of mTurk requesters are aware that a lot of labor forces are skewed towards developing countries. So um, they do limit locations to like United States, UK, Australia, or other English-speaking countries. Yep. Any other questions? No.
I okay. I think Hyungkook can start first.
So I just wonder, is there a Korea service similar to this?
Not that I know of. No, I don't think so.
I saw something similar in Korea.
There are companies like AIMO or CrowdWorks.
Yeah.
그 CloudWorks is mTurk is better than 아니다. Okay.
I do have two questions. So one is about IRB. So let's say if you're trying to compare two methods, and the result is just, let's say, a generation task. So it's generating human faces. Then is that considered to be IRB reviewed or not?
I think it depends on the results. So would this data, would you need to specify the subject would be the primary question. So could you give an example of what you mean by generating data?
So let's say it's a GAN model. It tries to generate a person's face like style band does. So, but the generated human faces are not real. It's very how could I say it? Arbitrary, I guess. It's not a real person. So should that also, but however, it's trained on real human face data set. So how would you should evaluate this?
Since the input and output is both not from I guess non-specified subject, I would say it does not need an IRB.
Thank you. And my second question is that I think it's quite useful for, let's say, classification or bounding box tasking. However, in most cases, you're trying to build a really big data set. Let's say you're trying to build a billion image data set. Then in the framework, it does not seem to handle those kind of things. So do you actually have to re-implement some kind of random assigning task for each images?
So could you specify what you mean by millions of images? Like what?
So let's say you have to label images, and if you think about it, if you have too much, let's say it's an ImageNet data set, there's a lot of images, and people have to label it. But I think one people can only handle like, I guess, thousands of images at one time. So you have to make another session for different image tasks other than the thousands of them.
That's actually a very good question. So let's see. So if I do recall correctly, match and task. Yeah, I would say you would need to make your own batches, like divide images into several batches and have to upload it on the mTurk. But I think there should be very polished, nice way to I guess batchify that millions of image classification task. I think I can I'll dig into more to that, because I do think that there should be a better way than just manually dividing them. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions? If there aren't any stunts, silence should be set as no. May I end my seminar?